Hey, what's up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. So I wanted to bring this up briefly. Myself and Darren at Fame 21 More. I have known Darren for probably, it's got to be three and a half years, maybe. Yeah, about 3.5 years at this point in time. We've been talking for quite a while and doing some sort of a collaboration. Finally got the chance back to reach out to him yesterday and just kind of said, screw it, let's launch a podcast, see how it goes. We're going to start. The first recording will be on Sunday. I certainly plan to grow it out, certainly plan to involve the community, certainly plan to kind of just, there's a lot of this expectation, like where we see these like interviews and things like that in this space, and that certainly provides value. We do plan to do things like that, but taking ourselves too seriously, I can't stand the term influencer. Not a big term of the fan, anything that you dictate yourself as researcher, influencer, whatever, because we're all at the end of the day just real people trying to make a better life for ourselves, probably our families, and hopefully help out other people as well. But that level of seriousness just kind of is always looming over the head of this space. And I think bringing it back down to reality, having like some fun conversations, like honestly just bullshitting a lot of the time will be very interesting, and then also providing some value-based interviews and things like that as well. So certainly excited about the podcast. I wanted to get into a bunch of stuff today. I saw some stuff about Hedera Hashgraph, or potentially from Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, that would insinuate there may be some things coming with Hedera Hashgraph and Google. And also kind of the Ripple test, the XRP test, which was in the Wall Street Journal today. Basically a benchmark watershed moment for the entire industry, which I think if you talk to a lot of people that are very centric around, and certainly not knocking people for their investment decisions, but very centric around that proof of work mechanism, looking at things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, where kind of the rhetoric is it doesn't matter. Everything's already set in stone. We've seen throughout this court case that everything is not set in stone. The SEC, essentially retracting comments that Hinman made, with in regards to Ethereum, but all these different mechanisms. And I think that what happens with the Ripple XRP case is going to really dictate how this market goes for the future of this market. So I did pull this up, and again, certainly not financial advice. I never advocate myself as some great TA guru or anything, but I do try to find trends that I may or may not find interesting. This one is, this is the 21 EMA, which is in yellow, and the 50 EMA, and I was just kind of interested in tracking when we actually do have, quote unquote, a bearish cross, where the yellow line dips below the blue. And granted, I'm colorblind here, but I'm assuming that the yellow is the 21 and the 50 is the blue. Looking at kind of how long from that cross until we hit bottom, as well as the percentage loss. And the last time, the earliest time, that I kind of used within this metric was, end of October 2014. And when I say bottom, I'm basically talking right here. I'm talking January 2015. And it was 91 days from end of October until this January 5th or January 12th date. 2015, and the drop in Bitcoin's price was 63.5%. We can see it again in August of 2018, 98 days. Bitcoin went down 56.37%, right down here. And kind of that March 2021 that we all talk about, that capitulation moment in the market. And a lot of people say that, death crosses and these bearish crosses are certainly lagging indicators. For these previous two ones, they were not lagging indicators. They were forefront indicators. They were actually indicating what was to come. This one in March, certainly a little bit different, at least for what I'm tracking here. It was literally within, it happened within 1 week, basically the bottom. That was how crazy that capitulation moment was. If you were here for it, you'll probably remember it. Probably the best opportunity that we've potentially ever had at one moment in this space, I would say. Because immediately after that, within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, seven weeks or so, we broke back above price action, held as support, and we saw the bull run that we've just had, obviously. But we are very close to this occurring again. I did run some numbers here, and you kind of do get to that 57.3% loss if you average out all three, and it does really take us down depending on when this potentially occurs. And again, I'm not saying this is going to occur. I'm just trying to look at different aspects, maybe be the devil's advocate, per to speak. But it does take us down to like that previous all-time high range, right around that 20K range, depending on when you look at it, and certainly depending on where price action is at when this does occur, if it occurs. And if this doesn't occur, we need to have one hell of a bounce. So moving forward, Alphabet exploring blockchain technology for flagship services. Now, this is certainly talking about Google Cloud to an extent, but it's also talking about the CEO of Alphabet and this quote that was just kind of released here. Anytime there is innovation, I find it exciting, and I think it is something we want to support the best we can. The web has always evolved, and it's going to continue to evolve, and as Google, we have benefited tremendously from open source technology, so we do plan to contribute there. Well, what technology just open sourced itself? And we certainly do know that Hedera's governing council buying the intellectual property from Swirlds and planning to open source Hedera Hashgraph's code. We also do know that Google sits on the governing board of Hedera Hashgraph. So very interesting. I'm not really trying to connect dots that aren't there. Maybe I'm trying to align some of them based on one of the initiatives that we do know Google was involved with, that being Hedera Hashgraph. And I think that the verbiage surrounding the open source that the CEO basically talked about, we have benefited tremendously from open source technology, so we do plan to contribute there. Well, that'd be interesting because we do know that Hedera is going open source. Saw this really quickly. This is at SanNL11, and I posted. I'll give him a follow. Tata announces tokenization plans of pretty much all holdings, including real estate, securities, shares, bonds, insurance. Now, this is Tata Consultancy Services. And a blockchain-enabled Indian stock exchange go-live date in 2022. I did say here that Ripple is obviously TCS Quartz, which is Tata Consultancy Services Quartz platform, otherwise titled the Smart Ledgers is what they've entitled it, and TCS Banks, essentially their payment solution for institutions. TCS Quartz is crypto-enabled. TCS Banks is as well, by the way. But at SanNL11, essentially saying, looking at the same thing, it's an old quant lead as well. So obviously a quant researcher here, certainly in support of that. The platform uses an API gateway for Corda/Hyperledger, legacy, and Ripple integrations. They are ODAP, and we'll see what ODAP is here in a second. Mailing list as well. Long time ago, with a funny face, we would never find it out though. And then, kind of this, we're meeting in discussions with companies like DXC, Tata Consulting, Cognizant's a giant, and PricewaterhouseCoopers Technology for potentially providing to their customers. Tied into ODAP, that's the Open Digital Asset Protocol. This is Martin Hargreaves here. We do know that Quant is directly mentioned in here. I think that XRP is as well. I know that Interledger is. So, and this is kind of the bread and butter of this. I just wanted to touch base on this very briefly here. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This was posted today. Ripple's legal brawl with the Securities and Exchange Commission could help settle when cryptocurrencies are securities. And kind of the header here. An SEC win would boost its case to regulate much of the crypto market, while a loss would reinforce calls for clearer laws. I think it's going to be both regardless of who wins. I think that the thing that they're not alluding to, which is certainly going to be set in stone once we do have some sort of a decision, is that if Ripple, quote unquote, wins, whatever wins looks like in this battle, that is going to set a precedent. That precedent is going to need to be followed. And if that precedent hadn't been followed by a lot of other blockchain projects out there, including a ton of layer ones, I would be scared shitless as the head of these blockchain projects, because I think when that precedent gets handed down from the judge via the ruling, it's a benchmark that needs to be met. And if you hadn't met that benchmark, or if you don't plan to meet that benchmark with a future product launch, you need to. And if you didn't meet that benchmark with your current launch that is now live, you should have. And what reciprocal actions are you going to need to take to go back in time to make sure that you are compliant with whatever gets handed down within this ruling? That's all that I'm going to say about that, but that's my opinion on it. Again, we're going to see news pieces come out like this on a consistent basis. I did see this today as well, which kind of flew under the radar here. And I'll leave you guys with this, but this is from R3. How do you implement atomic settlement? Ask Amazon. And this is Chief Economist Elisa DiCaprio, utilizing the example of Amazon Prime to explain how financial institutions can get from T+2, T+1 down to T+0 settlement in the latest Everyday Blockchain post. Now, I found this interesting because a lot of people ask kind of what that instant settlement aspect, that irrevocable settlement aspect looks like in this space. And I think that this does kind of lay it down more so in layman's terms here. And I certainly think that it's of value. And it's talking about kind of the mechanisms with Amazon Prime when you bundle a lot of things in a cart. Some of that stuff can certainly get there same day. Some of that stuff may still be 2-3 days. It's going to certainly allude to how a lot of these financial aspects get down to T+0, because there's so many in-ways and out-ways that we're not even thinking about right now. A lot of different assets probably deal in a lot of different jurisdictional clarity mechanisms as far as how you would settle that asset potentially, and some of these things take time. So I think it's very interesting, though, because we all do go towards T+0, and so do these financial institutions, essentially instantaneous settlement across the board. But there's going to be mechanisms and tools for us to get there as well. And then last but not least, we are seeing more metaverse talk. I saw this from Fortune today. I just thought it was interesting to drop in at the end here. Companies like Nike and Disney are hiring like crazy for the metaverse, and it's just the start. And this is just an insane number, but this is Facebook, obviously now called quote-unquote Meta. I will ask my parents in 5 or 6 years if they're using Meta, and they're going to be like, "What's Meta?" And I'll be like, "Are you using Facebook?" They'll be like, "Yes, Facebook." But it's certainly going to be a behemoth, in my opinion, regardless of my thoughts on Facebook, regardless of my thoughts on the capture of individual data and things like that, regardless of my thoughts of the founders' nonstop willingness to just literally innovate at all costs without potentially looking at the collateral damage. But anyways, they essentially committed to hiring 10,000 people in Europe over the next 5 years to help build the metaverse. That's a ton of people. And I guarantee you that's weighted very heavily at the forefront in developers, and they're going to be stealing a lot of talent out there. So maintain your values, maintain what you think about this space. Certainly do what you need to do if you want to take an opportunity. But this is what we're seeing. It's a headhunt for the most talented people, the most talented coders out there. So if you have kids growing up, and obviously not parental advice or anything like that, and they're interested in computers or interested in video games or interested in all of these different things, I certainly find it interesting to present them the aspect of potentially building out Web3, Web 3.0, obviously tying in financial aspects into the Internet of Information, which becomes the Internet of Value. And there's a lot of different resources out there to do that. But yeah, I mean, coding is going to be an insanely high demand from the blockchain distributed ledger technology aspect. It's certainly what I plan to hopefully gear my son for, because he's into some of this stuff anyways. And if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, though. And remember, it is going to be the Ripple/XRP test. You can listen to any sort of rhetoric you want to out there, but once this is set in stone, it is going to need to be abided by all of these organizations already operating or they're planning to operate in this space. If their mechanisms even resonate in any sort of a parallel plane as far as what Ripple has done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will talk to you guys, and enjoy the rest of your day. Later.